The Indiana Fever have already made a number of important additions this offseason. On Monday, Indiana further strengthened the roster by agreeing to a contract with Alleyne. The Fever have continued to add depth throughout the offseason, something they continued on Monday. It is a training camp contract for Alleyne. Fever add Alleyne, 30, played her college basketball at Oregon. Following a strong college basketball career, Alleyne was selected in the second round of the 2016 WNBA draft by the Phoenix Mercury. She did not play in 2016 due to an injury, however. Alleyne would not make her WNBA debut until 2019 due to a lack of opportunities. She was finally given an opportunity to play in limited action with the Minnesota Lynx. She appeared in 5 games, recording just 2.8 minutes per outing. Alleyne has only appeared in 2 games since, which came in 2021 with the Washington Mystics. She has not played in a WNBA game since the 21 campaign. Still, she is only 30 years old and could make an impact for the Fever. At the very least, Alleyne could provide depth for Indiana if she makes the team. She will need to play well in the preseason in order to truly catch the team's attention, though. With Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston set to lead the Fever once again, Indiana's future is unquestionably bright. They could even make a deep postseason run as soon as this year. Clark's immense popularity was a significant subject of discussion a season ago. The Fever would likely prefer for the focus of conversation to be on the team's performance in 2025. Clark could take a step forward in her career during the upcoming campaign. Mitchell is a star. Boston features a high ceiling. Indiana also added plenty of depth this year, giving them an overall reliable roster. Upsetting the New York Liberty, the defending WNBA champions, will be a challenging task. Indiana may still be a couple of years away from realistically emerging as true WNBA Finals contenders. With that being said, anything can happen. Perhaps the Fever can make things interesting in the postseason this year. Their depth additions will only help matters in that regard. The Fever's bench could perform at a respectable level. Meanwhile, the team's stars will lead the way once again. The Indiana Fever have signed Alleyne for training camp, the team announced. Alleyne has played for Minnesota and Washington in the WNBA, as well as in Israel. She most recently averaged 18.6 points, 13.8 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and 1.4 blocked shots per game in Turkey. Alleyne, a 30-year-old forward, played at Oregon and was Pac-12 Co-Player of the Year in 2016. The Indiana Fever have put the pedal to the metal this WNBA offseason and still aren't slowing down. The team continues to make possible roster adds, with the latest being the signing of Alleyne to a training camp contract. The Fever announced the addition of Alleyne Monday, who joins the squad for training camp after most recently playing in Turkey. Alleyne played college basketball at Oregon and was the 20th overall pick in the 2016 WNBA draft by the Phoenix Mercury before spending some time with the Minnesota Lynx and Washington Mystics. However, she saw the floor very sparingly during her WNBA tenure despite her illustrious collegiate career with the Ducks. Alleyne stood out this past season for Turkey's Tarsus Belediyesi Mersin, averaging 18.6 points and 13.8 rebounds per game. She is listed at 6.3 and will attempt to earn a role in the Fever frontcourt before the WNBA season starts. Of course, said frontcourt is now crowded given the previous additions of Natasha Howard, Dawana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, and Brianna Turner. So, Indiana will have a tough decision to make regarding who they keep amongst the players on non-guaranteed deals. Alleyne will likely be battling guard Jaylen Brown and any Fever draft picks for a spot on the final roster. Of course, said frontcourt is now crowded given the previous additions of Natasha Howard, Dawana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, and Brianna Turner. So Indiana will have a tough decision to make regarding who they keep amongst the players on non-guaranteed deals. Alleyne will likely be battling guard Jaylen Brown and any Fever draft picks for a spot on the final roster. Regardless of exactly how things shake out for the team personnel-wise come opening tip, the Fever appear formidable heading into Caitlin Clark's second professional season. And the franchise is clearly doing its due diligence in building around the basketball superstar. The 2025 WNBA season doesn't start until May 16th, and the draft takes place on April 14th. Training camps begin on April 27th, so we are 1 month away from the WNBA calendar churning. One team worth watching in 2025 is the Indiana Fever, which is entering its second season with superstar Caitlin Clark. The Fever let go of head coach Christy Sides and brought in former Connecticut Sun head coach Stephanie White. The Fever also added Sophie Cunningham via a trade with the Phoenix Mercury, as well as Natasha Howard, wnba, and two-time WNBA All-Defensive Team selection Brianna Turner. The Fever also brought back veteran Kelsey Mitchell, so the 2025 roster looks talented enough to make a run to the WNBA playoffs. On Monday, the Fever announced another move. The team signed forward Alleyne to a training camp deal, per the official release. Alleyne was selected number 20 overall by the Mercury in the 2016 WNBA draft. She has spent time with the Minnesota Lynx and Washington Mystics while also playing overseas in Israel. Most recently, Alleyne was with Turkey's Tarsus Belediyesi Mersin. Last season, she averaged 18.6 points, 13.8 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game in Turkey, and now she gets a chance to catch a roster spot with the Fever. Alleyne has played in just 7 games throughout her WNBA career, but if she performs well in camp, she could be a key depth piece for the roster in 2025. Most recently, she's played in Turkey, where she's averaged 18.6 points, 13.8 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game with Tarsus Belediyesi Mersin. In Oregon, she was the Pac-12 Player of the Year in 2016 and the NCAA's season rebounding leader in 2014. She has the third most rebounds and the second most double-doubles in NCAA Division I history, but she's never gotten much of a run in the WNBA, appearing in just 7 games in her career. Now, at age 30, she could get another opportunity in the most competitive league in women's basketball, and in front of a team being watched by more people than any other in the sport. The veteran forward will compete for a roster spot at the Indiana Fever's training camp next month, which begins in late April. Currently, the Fever have the following players under contract for 2025: Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aliyah Boston, Natasha Howard, wnba, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, Damiris Dantas, Brianna Turner, Sydney Colson, and Jaylen Brown. The Fever don't have any picks in the first round of the 2025 WNBA draft, but they do have 2 second-round picks who will likely also compete for a roster spot at training camp, picks number 19 and number 20. Alleyne will likely compete for the final roster spots with Brown and the incoming draft picks, as well as anyone else the Fever sign in the coming weeks. WNBA rosters can include a maximum of 12 players, though the Fever's cap situation could limit them to 11. Alleyne has the potential to be a formidable post player and provide added depth behind Aliyah Boston and Natasha Howard. The backup big role will also be played by Brianna Turner, who has an impressive defensive resume and hails from a tenure with the Chicago Sky. A training camp contract is no guarantee of a roster spot on the Fever, but it's a big first step for a player who has long been out of the league. If Alleyne can translate her elite play from Turkey to training camp in Indianapolis, she could be the latest offseason acquisition to bolster the team's front court. The Fever already have their own practice court and training area as part of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where both the NBA's Pacers and the Fever play. It was renovated in 2020. But the Pacers Sports and Entertainment Organization is going to the next step with the standalone facility for the Fever. Aliyah Boston, when asked about the new facility Thursday, said, "The Fever does so well at pouring into us and making us feel like the professional athletes that we are. It's amazing to have your own space and say, hey, this is our building. It's a blessing to play at Gainbridge, and we sell out every single night," Boston said. And wow, we're going to have our own practice facility. That's pretty dope. The facility will have 2 regulation-size courts with natural light, strength and conditioning equipment, and a full-service kitchen. Among many amenities will be hydrotherapy pools, a hair and nail salon, childcare space, and a podcast and content production studio.